Hey guys, you know the scene? You know the scene. The scene where the beast has just transformed to human and Belle takes a moment to, check that it's him before she accepts him and they kiss. A scene I actually showed to a friend of mine who, didn't like Disney and didn't really care for animation, and she was like, "Aw, I'm glad that she, had to take a moment to recognize him before they kissed." And remember how they remade this movie in 2017 and just butchered the crap out of that scene? Yeah, today we're going to talk about that. First off, I want to let you all know that I am in the middle of working on my giant Zutara meta-analysis monster of a video that I hope will be able to meet everyone's expectations. I wasn't actually expecting to return to Beauty and the Beast, in my reviews and analyses, except for maybe a snarky remark again here or there. But in the middle of my Zutara video preparation, I've been watching and rewatching movies with romance arcs that I consider to be well written or, well embedded into the themes of the story. I've been trying to answer questions like, how do you tell a love story that feels like a natural culmination of each character's character arcs? How do you weave the themes of the story into the romance and vice versa? And a particularly difficult question to answer was, how do you write believable chemistry, particularly romantic chemistry, between two characters? Chemistry is one of those things that seems really hard to define, and it doesn't help that sometimes people use it to mean slightly different things. For example, sometimes people might use it to mean that two characters have a believable and interesting fluid dynamic with one another. Sometimes people use it to mean that they feel a genuine spark or attraction between two characters. There's sort of a question on how much of it is down to the directing and acting versus how much of it is down to the writing. Because I was exploring the chemistry between characters in an animated medium, I wanted to focus more on how chemistry can be created in the screenplay and the dialogue as opposed to the acting. I feel like if a relationship in an animated movie feels real and compelling and interesting, it's going to be more down to the writing and the screenplay and the directing more than the voice actors. In a live action movie, the actors play a crucial role in performing the scene as written in the script. So who you cast and how they perform the scene is likely going to make a big difference in how that scene comes across to the audience. But in an animated movie, especially one that's not trying to be hyper realistic or something, I think the screenplay and dialogue is where it really matters. So to that end, I was rewatching Beauty and the Beast again, the original first animated feature to be nominated for Best Picture of the Year award, not the other one. And I'd done some research, looking up writing guides for aspiring authors on how to write believable character chemistry. So I kind of had an idea of what to look for. There are a few things that consistently came up as tips. Things like make your characters likable in the first place, obviously. And conflict is necessary, really necessary, regardless of what kind of chemistry you're trying to write. Although, at the same time, it can't be forced either. The audience needs to feel like the drama arises from the characters being true to themselves, who they are, and it should seamlessly mesh with the story at each given moment. And conflicts need to be resolved in a believable and satisfying sort of way, usually with the characters gaining a better understanding of themselves and of each other, and changing their minds and resyncing with each other. The idea that the relationship should exemplify the core themes and messages of the story was also something that came up quite a lot. And finally, something that should be driving the story is a sense of balance and harmony. The love story should feel like a dance, metaphorically speaking. A dance which has changes in tempo, mood, and tone. A dance which has the characters taking turns in leading and following. And by leading, I mean driving the scene, pushing the narrative forward, setting the tone and mood of each moment. Each scene, each shift in dynamic should organically build and follow from the one before it. And it should feel like a natural progression of A is leading, and B is following, and then sync, and then B causes a shift in their dynamic, so now B is leading and A is following, etc, etc, etc. With each role change, the characters as well as the audience learn something new about each other or about themselves, and the relationship itself should evolve too. With each shift, they either get closer or further apart. Repeat this dance until you get to the very end where they're now in perfect harmony with one another. That's the basic formula. And this doesn't just work for romance arcs. You can use this template to create different types of character chemistry as well. For example, you could use this to create a continuous back and forth, antagonistic but fluid relationship between the hero and villain of a classic superhero story. Although in that situation, obviously the end goal isn't perfect harmonious synchronization, but one side overpowering the other. And when it comes to romance, like I said in my previous video, you don't have to religiously follow this formula, especially if you don't really want to focus on the romance arc of your story. But by extension, I would argue that the less you show of the dance, the less invested your audience will be in seeing how it ends. I'm going to be using this dance metaphor a lot, so bear with me. So with all this in mind, I watched Beauty and the Beast again, and I was trying to pay attention, like I was specifically looking for the dance, who was leading, who was following, you know, where's the switch, where's the sync, etc, etc, etc. Beauty and the Beast being the classic, perfect, flawlessly written romance that it is, you can notice these changes in dynamic from scene to scene. Like how the Beast tries to get Belle to have dinner with him, but she pushes back and eventually gets her way, and she keeps pushing and flaunting all the rules until she pushes too far, and then the Beast throws a tantrum, and then she's fleeing, and so it's his turn to take initiative, and then it's her turn again, and well, you get the gist. On a macro level, you can see the ebb and flow from scene to scene as the characters take turns driving the narrative, leading and following, acting and reacting, questioning and answering each other. But then there's also scenes where you can see this like on a micro level. Scenes that in and of themselves are full of, if not romantic tension, then at least a lot of character tension. Scenes that bring this push and pull, lead, follow, sync dynamic right to the surface in the way that the character interaction is written and shot and framed. This argument scene, where the Beast blames her for running away and she snaps right back at him, is a flawless example of it. Now, on a macro level, this scene happens right after the one where he saves it from the wolves, leading her to have a moment of genuine regret, concern, and gratitude for him, which then results in her bringing him back to the castle where she can tend to his wounds. By the end of this scene, the mood between them will shift, and they'll both start to see each other as unlikely friends. There's the flow in their relationship from a broader perspective. You can see how each scene serves to impact and change their dynamic as a whole. Now let's zoom back in again and take a closer look at this scene.
That hurts!
If you'd hold still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
Well, if you hadn't have run away, this wouldn't have happened.
If you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
Notice how the visual representation of their argument emphasized this turn-taking dynamic. As he leans in, she pulls back. Then she leans in, and he pulls back. Even in the heat of a fight, where the characters are directly clashing with one another, there is a synchronicity to it. Back and forth, push and pull. As for the dialogue itself, you see the Beast struggling to one-up Belle's retorts to him, trying to have the last say, trying to seize and maintain control of the moment, before ultimately being forced to accept that he is at least just as much at fault as she is for the preceding wolf attack. They're fighting, but they're also connecting and learning and adapting, adjusting and readjusting. This finally culminates here, where the Beast has basically surrendered, and then Belle reaches out to him, setting a new tone for their relationship and shifting their dynamic with a single line.
By the way, thank you for saving my life.
And it works. She pulls him back in.
You're welcome.
That right there, there's the dance. Visually, texturally, there it is. Any aspiring writers out there, if you want to craft a scene that shows two characters like fighting but engaged, arguing but understanding, clashing but synchronizing, this is how you do it. This is like the gold standard. Compare that with the remake.
That hurts!
If you held still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
If you hadn't run away, none of this would have happened.
There is no synchronicity here. They're literally just going through the motions. It's actually astonishing how much you can copy-paste from a scene and somehow suck all the life out of it at the same time. Because the dialogue is basically identical, but it's like their heart and soul just isn't in it.
If you hadn't run away, none of this would have happened.
The Beast sounds practically apathetic, and the more Belle argues with him, the more she tries to engage him, the more he turns away from her. Also, why did we randomly switch to these guys in the middle of their argument? Like, there's a reason why the original was wholly focused on Belle and the Beast during this argument. The scene was about them, their evolving relationship and understanding of each other. It was about their dance. That's what we're invested in, not these side characters' emotionless reactions to it. Immediately, the framing of this scene in the remake has set up these characters to have a much more distant, unequal and unsynchronized dynamic with one another. Now, this isn't necessarily terrible. We could still have fixed this if this scene had managed to pull a tone shift similar to the original scene that brought, balance and synchronicity back into their dynamic. It could have worked out just fine. The difference is that because you've gone and increased their rift, the shift would have to be even more powerful and resonant in order to make up for it. If you're going to swing the pendulum far in one direction, you need to be ready to swing it back just as hard. But instead, we get this.
Try to get some rest.
So we don't get a shift in tone. We don't get a sense of them trying to connect with one another. We get distance and more distance. This scene has been completely stripped of the tension that made it compelling and heartwarming in the original. But you know what though, even this wouldn't have been terrible if we got another scene later on that made up for it. Like in the original, the next scene of them interacting is the Beast giving her his library because he's starting to fall for her, and he really wants to make her happy. She was kind to him, she reached out to him, and now it's his turn to repay it, which he does. I haven't even gone into it in this video, but if you've watched both versions of Beauty and the Beast, then you'll know that the remake version of the Beast treats Belle way worse than he did in the original, and with almost no indication of remorse or regret for any of it. Like, by the time this scene ends, they've skewed the balance so heavily and widened the rift so much that in order for the pendulum to swing back like it should, the Beast should have had to take even more initiative somehow when it was his turn to lead in order to restore that balance. And to be honest, they could have done that, and there's no reason why it wouldn't have worked. Shows like Outlander or Pride and Prejudice do something very similar in the way they explore the central conflicts between their romantic leads, and those are other love stories that I consider very well written and full of romantic chemistry. The dance in these stories are full of emotional rifts and estrangement and coming back together again, and it works because the writers are very careful to make sure that every major source of conflict and imbalance is subsequently resolved by an equally powerful shift backward to bring them back in sync and on equal ground with one another. The remake of Beauty and the Beast is longer than the original by a full hour, so it's not like they didn't have enough time to flesh this out properly if that's the direction they wanted to take it. Creating extra layers of conflict or distance between your leads can lead to a more satisfying payoff as you force the characters to work harder to earn their happy ending, but they do actually need to earn it. So how does the Beast in 2017 earn Belle's love again? Alright, by having a spat with her, in which he condescendingly insults her favourite book, discrediting the one pastime that she's truly passionate about, and basically calling her ignorant, and then arrogantly showing off his massive collection in a rather distasteful show of wealth and learnedness, like, "Oi, peasant, you think you've read books? I'll show you books." After all that, this is the moment she really starts to warm to him. Are you fucking kidding me? I guess they're in love now, you know? That's the power of books for you. Gone is that dance between them where they push and pull, lead and follow, learn and grow. You even see this in the actual dance scene. Gone is the part where Belle and the Beast have dinner together. Gone is the part where she feels playful and invites him to the dance floor. The part where the Beast nervously gulps as he hasn't danced in who knows how long. Gone is all of that beautiful build-up of tension where the characters take turns driving the scene and adjusting and readjusting to their roles in it. Build-up? Tension? Why do we need any of that when we can just have our lead characters meet in the ballroom and start dancing? Why are they dancing again? I'm gonna skip forward to the very end, the part that I alluded to at the beginning of this video. In the remake, Belle stands there awkwardly as the Beast transforms in front of her, and then she moves in, touching his hair, smiling. We get a shot of the Beast's blue eyes, and then Belle joyfully kisses him. There's basically no real moment of hesitation. There's no flash of recognition like we get in the original. There's also no dialogue. Now, I could be going bonkers, but I remember an interview, or like a snippet from an interview way back in 2017 when this movie came out. I don't remember who said it. Like, it was one of the directors or could have been one of the cast members. I don't remember exactly who said it, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, why does Belle need to check that it's the Beast? I mean, she saw him transform right in front of her. Like, who else could it be, Belle? Obviously, it's the Beast. Why do you need to check? Why do you need to touch his hair and, like, look into his eyes or whatever? Like, it's obviously gonna be him, right? I spent, like, a whole day Googling, trying to find this quote or, like, this interview where it came from, but because I couldn't remember the exact wording and I don't remember who said it, so I even tried to, like, see if I could find the director's commentary, but apparently that's only available on Vudu and you have to pay like $20 to buy the movie on there, and like that's the only place that the director's commentary exists. So, I mean, I'm not going to pay $20 to buy a movie that I hate just to check if someone said something stupid in it. So you guys are just going to have to take my word for it. I mean, regardless of if I'm misremembering or not, this movie tries so hard to copy paste from the original, like line by line, frame by frame even, that the moments where they differ feel deliberate, like they're trying to fix something. Like this bit of dialogue here, for example.
You think you could be happy here?
Can anybody be happy if they aren't free?
Like that was definitely trying to fix or address perceived shortcomings of the original dialogue, which is this.
Belle? Are you happy here with me?
Yes.
The remake version of that was definitely trying to fix what the creators saw was a flaw in the original dialogue or in Belle as a character or something. Look, I'm not even going to go into that for this, but the point is, the creators of the remake seemed pretty obsessed with retelling the story almost exactly. And to me, the changes they do make seem pretty obviously trying to fix like perceived flaws in the original. Regardless of their reasons for fixing this scene, it sucks. And if they fixed it for the reason that I remember, you know, oh, it would be an insult to Belle's character if we actually had her stop and check and make sure it's him before she kisses him or something. Like, if that was the reason why they fixed that scene to make it the way it was, that is a whole new level of stupid because it completely misses the point of that scene. Let's take a look at the original again, shall we? We see the beast transform, and we see Belle initially rush to his side in concern, but then pull back as he rises to his feet. When he turns around, he approaches her, reaching out to her, and she responds with a mixture of hesitation, curiosity, uncertainty, and longing. She reaches for him and pulls back, and reaches for him again. And as they lock eyes, she realizes it is him, and all the uncertainty falls away as she embraces him and they kiss at last. Did you see that? Push and pull, lead and follow. The close-up of his eyes as he tries to silently prove to her that it's still him. The flash of recognition on her face as all her doubt falls away. This scene has nothing to do with Belle being too dumb to realize that the man standing before her is the beast that she's grown to love. That's not the point. This scene was their last dance. And it was freaking beautiful. The beast transformation is an enormous shift in dynamic for these characters. Like, you can't get much more dramatic of a change than a full-body, magical, curse-lifting transformation. You can't introduce this huge-ass twist that completely redefines their relationship with one another without giving them one last fucking dance. That's a huge part of what made this scene work. Like, that's what made it feel complete. To remove all of this, because Belle is surely smart enough to recognize the beast without hesitation, without checking, without confirming, to play this scene without showing these two characters, like, rediscovering, readjusting, alternating, taking turns with taking initiative, both making an effort to reconnect with each other following the crazy plot twist that just happened. To just nix all of that betrays a colossal lack of understanding of how stories actually create narrative tension between characters and how to make the audience actually give a shit. This is why people felt this scene and these characters lacked real emotion and chemistry in the remake. They needed one last dance. Why would you not give them one last dance? Seriously, where's the flow? Where's the back and forth? I genuinely don't understand how you can mess this up so badly. You literally had a template to work with.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
The 2017 version of Beauty and the Beast was the last live-action Disney remake that I ever saw. I saw how much they butchered my favorite Disney movie of all time, and as a result, I have absolutely no interest in seeing any more of these remakes. I have not seen The Lion King, or Aladdin, or Mulan, and from the reviews and analyses that I've seen from other people, I know I've made the right choice. Whoever's writing these remakes don't seem to understand or care about what makes characters' journeys compelling and believable. They hit all of the necessary beats and skip all of the emotion. It's not for me. Anyway, I just had to get out this rant as I was watching Beauty and the Beast again and got to the end of the movie and was reminded of that stupid quote that I saw way back when. I will get back to Atla and my Zutara meta-analysis as soon as I can, I promise. That being said, I might actually make a few other Atla videos first, like exploring certain character arcs and character growth before I get to my giant video. Like, there's so much to talk about, and the hardest thing for me to do is going to be to, like, not go off on tangents. So I might actually publish a few of these, like, tangential arguments as separate videos in the meantime. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time on Sneezy Reviews. Bye!